Hello, everybody. We have more people. Oh, this is awesome. Welcome to the penultimate, the next to last. That's what the word penultimate means. I didn't know that for a really long time. I thought penultimate meant the last thing, and penultimate is the next to the last thing. So this is the penultimate episode of Writers at Work. And the subject is agents and getting an audience for your work. And I am Kathy Day. I am your host, and my trusty sidekick Jim Miller is also here. Let me get the PowerPoint. I'm going to go through a few things, and then I'm going to turn it over to oh, I didn't share my screen. There we go. Whoops. All right. Yeah. All right. Can everybody see this? You'd think by this point I'd be up on the technology, but sometimes I still screw things up. Okay, so tonight we're talking with Angela Jackson Brown and Sarah Hollowell, who I will introduce in just a second. But I wanted to give you the spiel and also tell you about some news. All of these events are recorded and then put online on the site's bsu.edu Cardinal Directions site. So that you can rewatch or send it to somebody else. And we also share all the takeaway resources that are handed out during the presentation. We also put those online, so remember that. Next week, next Wednesday at this time, Katie Didden will be here to talk about the artist statement. She is the queen of residencies. This woman goes to writing retreats and writing residencies and basically just gets to go be in a place and just write. And she's going to teach us the secret, which is to have a really good artist statement. So she'll be here next week, and that will be the last one of that series. And then we're going to start a new series. And so I've put this in here so that if anybody who's in my class, they definitely need to go ahead and register for the next, so you can get the link to the next series of events. This will be Cardinal Directions, a career series, and it's specifically for students in Anthro, English, History, Modern Languages, and Philosophy, Religious Studies. But anybody can come, and the main thing I will tell you about what this is for is to let you know that the way to get a job with a humanities degree is to not graduate and then look at the job market and see what's out there. Like Google jobs for English majors or jobs for anthropology majors. I mean, it works that way, but it doesn't work very well. And so what I'm going to teach you is how to strategically figure out what you want, not what the world out there has to offer and how you can fit yourself into it, but rather how you can decide what you want and get yourself there. So that is Cardinal Directions. It starts on March 2nd. To talk about personal branding, although I hate the word branding. So it's weird that I actually go ahead and say that, but it's really just about figuring out what makes you unique. That's really all it is. And so those are the events that we're going to go through, and make sure that tonight that you share what you learn. You can use our hashtag, you can tag the Creative Writing Program. Sarah and Angela are all on Twitter, so make sure you tag them if you quote them. And I just wanted to say a few things about Angela and Sarah so they don't have to introduce themselves. So some of you may know Angela because she is a professor here at Ball State. She got her MFA at Spalding University in Louisville, which is also where Paige Waters, who was here a few weeks ago, she also got her MFA there. She's the author of Drinking from a Bitter Cup, House Repairs, the novel When Stars Rain Down, which I don't have right now because my mom is reading it. Because I loved it so much, and also a new novel that's going to be coming out July 5th, The Light Always Breaks. And so that's Angela, and our other guest today is Sarah Hollowell. She graduated from Ball State English in 2015. And just 4 years after graduating, she sold the book that she's going to probably talk about tonight, A Dark and Starless Forest, a debut YA contemporary fantasy novel. Sometimes people say to me when I want to talk about the business of writing, they say that they don't think that this is the right time to be talking to students about the business of writing. It's too soon. But then I look at someone like Sarah, who within 4 years of graduating had sold a book. So I think it's just the right time to be talking about these things. And she's also got a new novel that's in the works that is set in an Indiana endless corn maze, which I think sounds fascinating. Okay, so let me go to the next. I'm going to turn this over to these folks. Okay, so are you guys ready to start?
Ready. We're absolutely ready. Thank you so much, Kathy, for inviting us to talk to your students. And I think I see a few of my students in the room. So I'm so excited to have this opportunity. Similar to what you said, when I was in undergrad and graduate school, I never had this type of conversation. And it put me at a deficit because I had to find out all of these things on my own, pretty much by trial and error. So even if you're not in the position where Sarah was, to have a project that was very close to being finished, or at least having a concept maybe of where she was going, these conversations are really good for you to file away for when you really are ready to go out and find an agent. So the first point that we wanted to make was what might seem like elementary, my dear Watson: finish your book. The worst possible thing you can do is to query your book and it's half finished, especially if you're a first-time author, because the publishing industry, I'll say this, agents move very quickly. The publishing industry oftentimes moves fast once they are interested in something. Now, it could take 6 to 9 months before someone responds to you, but when they do, their expectations are that if they say, okay, I'm interested in that book, that you have the book ready to send to them, not, oh, I need to spend another 6 to 8 weeks revising it. I'll send it to you then. Well, by then they've moved on to other potential clients. So make sure, and I even say, have one book and possibly a book and a half. Because the other thing, once you sign with a publisher, they're interested in your next project as well. So if you can have a project ready to go after the book that they initially signed for, then you're in a much better position because you're not frantically trying to throw something together. You've got something ready to go. So that would be my first bit of advice.
And we've got a variety of different pieces of advice about building a platform. And the first thing is actually something I learned from Kathy when I took her literary citizenship class many, many years ago now, it feels like, which is just be interested in what other people are doing. For one thing, this is more enjoyable for you. If you just go on social media with the mindset of, I am going to promote myself, that's not fun. Generally, you're going to burn out. You're not going to get a lot of engagement because people can tell when you're not being genuine. It's a lot more fun if you just have a genuine interest in what other people are doing, like read other books and then start, tweeting about them or posting stuff on Instagram or TikTok or anywhere that you post anything. And tag the authors in good reviews. Don't tag them in bad reviews. That's a thing people do, and I don't know why, but tag them in good reviews if you like their book. Or start talking to agents and editors, like just respond to their like normal tweets, just start forming friendships. And that will help you start becoming part of a community and getting to know people. And it can also kind of like wrap back around eventually. Like, don't go into it thinking I'm doing this to get something from them. But I definitely have authors who blurbed my book that I originally met because I tweeted at them about how much I loved their book. So he's going to interrupt all the time. I'm just going to ignore him. So that is, I think, one big piece of advice I'd give. And then I would also say it's important to focus on the social media platforms that you enjoy. And it kind of comes back to that thing where if you're not having fun, or if you just don't enjoy it, people can generally tell. It's going to be harder for you to create content, harder for you to remember to post. For instance, I have a single TikTok, I believe, that maybe two that were posted 1 to 2 years ago. I don't know how long. It's been a long time. It's just not a platform that I understand for as far as posting. I'll watch them. Posting them, I don't know what I'm doing. So I don't use it. Whereas for some reason, I am cursed to understand Twitter. So I use Twitter all the time. But just focus on the places where you actually enjoy being.
Absolutely. And I'm definitely there with Sarah. I do Instagram and Facebook primarily just because those are my two comfort zones. Now, I write historical fiction, and so I am always on the search for certain bits of information. And what I have found is that Facebook and Instagram, they love to share information. So I'm always, if there's something I don't know, I'm always saying, hey, does anyone know about this? Or does anyone know about that? And I reach out to those audiences, and before long, experts pop up in my feed. Now, that serves a couple of purposes. It saved you a Google, but it also creates a relationship between you and your readers because they feel like they're a part of the process. And anytime a reader is helpful to me, I give them obviously a shout out back on social media for helping me. But if it's a really big help, like for example, I'm working on a novel coming out next year. Next year. And one of the characters is Black Jewish man from the 1960s. And so I was able to reach out on social media and say, hey, I've got a character who's going to be in a relationship. It's going to be a Jewish man, Black man with a Christian. Does anyone out there know someone from the 60s that had that kind of relationship? And almost immediately someone said, oh, my grandparents. So now I'm talking to their grandparents. I'm going to give them a thank you and the acknowledgements in the book because they're not on social media. And now I have a reader who's endeared to me because I used her grandparents for a resource. Oh, the next point, who is the audience for your book? Is that me, Sarah, or is that you? I just want to make sure.
That was you.
That's me. Who's the audience for your book? Where do they hang out online? Let them know how they can reach out to you. And I know it feels like I don't have a book. I don't have an agent. Why am I doing all of this work now? I promise you it saves you in the long run because there's going to be an agent or agents who ask you, what does your social media platform look like? What's your reach? How many followers do you have? And it's easier to have that conversation if you've got it in place. So once you know who your audience is, that's when you can start finding them. So like I follow all of the Black Bookstagrammers. And if you look for the hashtag Black Bookstagrammers, you'll find them on social media. I also am very close with the historical fiction writers group or the Southern fiction writers. So I found my tribe before I ever started looking for an agent. And as a result of that, when I did have a product ready for them, I already had an active, engaged audience because I was commenting on their things, I was sharing their work, and it was a built-in network. So if you can do some of that legwork beforehand, I think it will really put you in a better place.
Yes. And similar to that, go ahead and buy your domain name. Even if you don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time on a website yet, buy the domain name before someone else does, especially if it's your name. Like I think I bought sarahhollowell.com back when I was at Ball State. I think I've had it for a really long time. And it's also a good idea to just go ahead and set up a simple website. It doesn't have to be super pretty. It can be the most basic template from like WordPress or Wix or whatever. It can be free. It doesn't matter. And basically the point of it is that people have one place to go to where they can learn about you. They can learn if you have essays or short stories published, they can find them. If they want to contact you or find you on social media, they can find you, because that's really, really helpful for people who are interested in you or interested in your work. I've definitely gotten a lot of cool opportunities just through the contact form on my website. And actually, a really good person on Twitter to follow about this is Dahlia Adler. She's a writer and she's incredible. And she is maybe single-handedly making sure that every young adult author on Twitter keeps their website updated, because she's constantly sending out reminders about it. Because that's the thing, is you also have to keep it updated. It did take me about 2 weeks after my book came out to change it from pre-order to buy now. And you should be better about it than I am. But honestly, just having this central area where people can find you is so, so helpful. Even if literally all you have right now is social media links, that's fine. That's enough. Just go ahead and let people know where you are.
Absolutely. And you are in the perfect location to get all of these things done. I strongly encourage you to barter for a good website, for good headshots. And you reach out to the photography department at Ball State and say, hey, I need headshots. Is there a photography student who might be interested in doing it for me? Or you reach out to TCOM, or you reach out to some of the other programs, or you go on Twitter and say, hey, I need someone to do a website for me. I will edit your English papers. Use your talents to get the things that you need in place. I'm constantly bartering because, I'm not bringing in J.K. Rowling's money at this point. So I have to find ways that I can get the services that I need without necessarily spending hundreds or thousands of dollars. Because if you Google the people that are making websites, you could be out of $5,000, $10,000 or more. So if you don't want to invest your energy into learning how to do a website, or if your significant other doesn't take good pictures with a phone, then just reach out. You're in the perfect place to reach out and say, hey, I need help. And I promise you there will be a student out there who'd be happy to help you. So the next question that most people have is, okay, so I am interested in finding an agent. I have a book. I want to find an agent. Where do I go to find these agents? Are they just hanging around in the atmosphere? There are a lot of different resources. Some of them are free. Some of them you have to pay in order to get access to. But I think if we start thinking about our careers as an investment, then some of these, I would say, tell your parents and grandparents, would you get me membership to this for the holidays? That's a great way to get gifts that are related to your career path. So Query Tracker, Publishers Marketplace, Poets and Writers, Writers Digest, Manuscript Wish List, the agents, I'll stop with Manuscript Wish List. All of these are resources where you can find out about agents and what the agents are looking for, which is so important that you are aware of what they're looking for, so that if you write YA fiction, you're not sending it to an agent who only represents creative nonfiction or memoir. You want to make sure that what you do matches up with what the agents are looking for. So if you go to these resources, you'll be able to see almost in real time what these agents want. You'll be able to find when they accept queries. So there are certain times of the year that's just not good to send an email or a manuscript to an agent, because they shut down sometimes in the summer. I know that's when my agent does. During the summer, she gives that time to her children, and so she doesn't really accept new clients. So if you're sending them work during the time they're not accepting, you're just gonna, your stuff is just gonna sit on their email exchange. And then when they do start, they'll probably delete all that and you've lost all that valuable time. Publishers Marketplace, and I don't think I had Publishers Weekly on here, but those are really good places to find out what deals agents are making. To piggyback on what Sarah said a few minutes ago, I would actually, back in the day when I was looking for an agent, if I was on Twitter and I was friends with an agent, I would congratulate them on a recent deal. I would say, congratulations, I just saw that you, an XYZ author, an author that I read, got a deal with HarperCollins or got a deal with whatever. And that's a good way to start building, as Sarah said, a friendship or a relationship with these agents. So these are all resources that I think will be beneficial to you. Sarah, I think, is going to talk about the last part of the slide.
Yeah, so I tended to find agents that I queried through a few other means. A lot of it was like social media, and I would specifically look up authors that I really enjoy or who were writing books similar to mine, because that would tell me that their agents like the kind of thing I'm trying to write. That can also like potentially backfire in terms of they might be like, I already have this, but usually if they like it enough, that's usually not as much of an issue. And you can usually find, if they're on Twitter, if the author's on Twitter, they'll usually have the agent's handle in their bio. It'll usually say rep by this person, so you can go take a look, or you can just Google it. If it's a really big author, sometimes it's a little harder to find the agent, but for most authors, you can find that information. And I then, once I like had the agents in mind, I definitely went to agent websites. That's valuable for a few reasons. You can find out more about the other kind of clients they represent, because a lot of agents, if their websites are up to date, will have like, here's all of my clients, or here's my recent deals, things like that. But a lot of agents also have really specific directions that you can follow about how to query them, because agents also have different preferences. Like my agent only took queries through this query form that a lot of agents use now. Others want you to email them. Some want you to include this specific information. It'll change how much they want you to send them of your book. Like they might only want 5 pages. Some of them might want 50 pages. So you really need to look at their guidelines. And another good place to look for those guidelines is social media. Search the agent's handle plus query plus queries, and you will find them usually having opinions about little things that you might not have thought about. Like there's kind of a debate about if it's better to start your query letter with the personal like greeting, or to just go right into the book. Some agents really want that personal greeting first. Others are like, I don't care, put that at the end. Tell me about why you chose me at the end. First, tell me about your book. And you can go on Twitter and usually find them talking about those things.
I'm sorry, if you'll go back one slide, Kathy. When I found my agent, I found them through an agent pitch session. So the Carnegie Center in Lexington, Kentucky, every year, or at least every year before COVID, they would have a pitch session. And the agent that I had been eyeing for a few years was going to be at that pitch session. So you're given approximately, or I was given 15 minutes to share what my book was about. That means you have to know how to get to the point quickly. You can't describe the book from beginning to end. You have to be able to hit the high points. I think it's beneficial if you are not a screenwriter to look at a screenwriting book or a website that describes how screenwriters pitch a movie or a television idea, because we can learn a lot from how they are able to really truncate what their project is about. So just kind of Google that and see what you find. But I realized that I had to be personable, I had to be quick to the point, and I had to end it by really giving that agent a reason to work with me. You know, these are the reasons why you want to work with me. And I talked about my writing style. I talked about what I was looking for in an agent, because we'll talk about that more, but those are important things too. So that's how I was able to find my agent. And I think if you're really personable, then that might be the way you want to go.
You can also do virtual pitches. There are a lot of different pitch contests that run on Twitter. They usually have a hashtag that goes with them. And agents and editors will look at the tweets in that hashtag and they might contact you. The important thing to know about participating in pitch contests is to find like the account that is associated with it and find the rules, because a lot of them have different rules and some of them are pretty important to how the contest runs. So there's one I can't remember the name of right now, of course, but it's specifically agents and editors like the tweet, and that's how the author knows that they're interested. Other authors and other people should not like it. They should quote tweet it so that people can see it and say, this is really cool, and show it to like agents that might be following them, but you shouldn't like the tweet, which is kind of counterintuitive sometimes for some people. So, but other pitch contests run completely differently. So just always make sure you check the rules for those. But there are definitely people who have been able to find an agent through like a tweet, literally through a tweet pitch. And so when you are writing your query letter, it is important to personalize the letter in some way, whether or not it starts with it or it comes at the end. You basically want to tell the agent why you're querying them. You want to show them that you're not just sending queries out to, you know, an alphabetical list of agents that you found somewhere without any thought put into it at all. Although it is, I do think this is a really important part of a query letter. It's kind of funny. I went to look what mine was in my query letter to my agent, and there wasn't one. So it's clearly not 100% vital if the book is good, but I put it in a lot of other query letters, and you should too. But we have a few examples on a couple of different slides here that I might not go through all of, but like the basic idea is to tell them, I saw that you liked this kind of book on Twitter or on your blog, or the manuscript wish list is a great thing to mention if they have an active manuscript wish list going on. And also for mentioning client books, that helps a lot. If you say you represent this client and we have a similar genre, or these clients. I know there was one where I talked about how a couple of their clients had career tracks similar to what I wanted, where I wanted to be able to write in a lot of different genres and age ranges. And they had clients like that, which showed me they were open to that sort of thing. So telling them why you are interested in them. And then these are a few others. And it's kind of along the same idea, but these are some, if you need some specific wording, which I definitely needed with my query letter, you can find a lot of templates online that can help a lot if you're just really nervous about how you're wording everything. But so these can kind of help you think about why are you contacting this agent. It can also help you with your research, because you can keep it in mind as you're looking at agents and think, why this one though? Because if you can't even think of a good reason, then you might want to consider if you should be querying them at all. And the reason literally can just be one of their clients has a book that I really like and is like my book. That can be it. That's fine. And they just seem like a good agent. But you should have some reason other than you saw their name and you saw the word agent next to their name.
I wanted to ask Sarah, so MSWL is manuscript wish list. It's a hashtag that agents use?
It's a hashtag and a website.
Oh, okay. I think I put it on the takeaways. I'm pretty sure. I was trying to remember if I did that or not. Okay. Next slide.
Yes.
So this can be a controversial suggestion, because I know there are agents out there and editors out there who will say they don't want simultaneous submissions. And by that meaning, they want you to send your manuscript to them, then they make a decision. And if their decision is no, then you send it to another agent, or in some cases, an editor. I say that's not realistic. And especially at the speed that so many agents and editors move, if you had to only send to someone one at a time, and they take 6 to 9 months to respond to your manuscript, you're going to be 98 years old in a nursing home, still waiting on that, fourth submission that you sent out. So what I do say is keep really good records. And there are some places where you can find like Duotrope and some other online sources. Submittable, some agents are using Submittable, not as many as probably should, but those are some ways that you can keep track. But I had a very extensive Excel spreadsheet where I had the name of the agent, I had the agency that they worked for, I listed all the different types of things that they were looking for. So I just kept a really good record, and I put when I sent them the manuscript and when I received a response and what the response was, so that I knew as soon as someone said they were interested in the full manuscript or they were interested in a partial manuscript, I put that on my spreadsheet. Then when my agent, the one that I'm with now, said yes, then I was able to quickly go back and let all of those individuals know, thank you for your consideration, but I've signed with another agent. I never told them who I signed with. I figured they'll read Publishers Weekly or Publishers Marketplace and find it out there, because I wanted to be able to have a door open in case I needed to go back to anyone. And I didn't want to have it be contentious, especially if they were in a rivalry with an agent or something. So I just simply said I signed with someone. But I always had at least 10 manuscripts out to 10 agents. And then when a no came, I would replace that agent with another agent. And I only had to do that in 2 rotations. By that time, I had an agent because I went to that pitch session. So if you keep really good records, sending out your manuscript in batches is the most time-effective way to get an agent, especially if you've done your initial research to make sure you're only sending to agents that would be interested in what you write.
Can you guys say something briefly? I'm sorry. Make sure you say something briefly about the partial and about the number of pages that is kind of routine in terms of like stage 1, and then it goes this, and then maybe they ask for this, because it's important, I think, for students to realize they're not probably going to be sending the whole manuscript the first get-go. So
yeah, and that changes from agent to agent. So that goes back to your record keeping. Like some agents will just say, send me a query letter. So they just want a letter that describes the project. Then they might come back and say, send me the first 25 pages or the first 50 pages. And then there are agents that will just simply say, send me the entire manuscript. That's why we say, you don't want to say to yourself, oh, this is going to take so long, I'll have time to finish the manuscript by the time my agent wants the full. I've had agents where I emailed them in the morning, they asked for the full by lunch, and by 5 p.m. they said, sorry, I'm not interested. Now, clearly they didn't read my entire book, but they read enough of it to know that that wasn't what they were interested in. But if I wouldn't have had the full manuscript, I would have lost out on that opportunity for that agent to even look at my work in the first place.
Aren't there some agents that will also say, like, send me the first 3 pages?
Yeah.
At the first stage, and you're not even able to give them the first chapter at that, if it's just 3 pages. So I think I've had students strategize, making sure that there's something important on the first 3 pages, there's something important in the first 20, so that like whatever the agent asks for, there's something good in there that they'd be happy with sending out.
I'm going to say this, and I might, if you are having to figure out what pages to send to your agent, then you probably started your book in the wrong place. Because if your book is not exciting on page 1 and you're like, well, I'm going to send them chapter 10 because that's where it's really exciting, and start the book on chapter 10. No one wants to read 9 chapters of boring stuff. We as your teachers have no choice, but an agent is going to make a decision. Sometimes the first paragraph, my agent said that she reads the first paragraph and she knows if she wants it. Good googly moogly. If they're making decisions on the first paragraph, then you got to come out of the gate strong. So I say, make sure you start, if there's a dead body, put that dead body in chapter 1 so that they have something to get excited about.
You're telling all the secrets of being a creative writing teacher, Angela.
I can't help
to say that. Sorry, another thing about sending letters in batches that I think is important is that it really helps with rejection, because you're going to be rejected. Like, unless you're magic, you're going to be rejected, possibly a lot. It depends. And I found that it really helped to have an actionable next step. So like Angela said, when I got a rejection or a pass, I sent it to the next person on the list. Like, I find that in general with writing and rejection, because you get a lot of it, it just helps to take a moment to be like, damn, okay, this sucks. I liked that one. And then move on. And having that list and having those batches helps a lot.
Follow-up is important in the sense that sometimes, if you haven't heard from someone in 6 months or 9 months, don't assume it's because they don't like your manuscript. Assume that they've gotten busy with other things and it's not just about you, and that they have clients that they are an agent for, and yet at the same time they're looking for new folks. So assume that maybe your email just got lost in the shuffle. So 6 to 9 months, there's nothing wrong with you sending a follow-up email saying, I just wanted to check and make sure you received my manuscript. My agent, who usually is like this with responding to me, I sent her something on Sunday and I had not heard back from her. So I sent her a heads up and said, hey, I was just double checking you got the email from Sunday. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I forgot all about it. I'll get on top of it today. So even when you're signed with an agent, they get busy, they're shuffling all kinds of things at one time. So assume the best, reach out, don't be antagonistic, and you never know, you might get a really good agent who says, oh, I'm going to read your manuscript today because I made you wait so long. You never know.
Is it true that no answer is a no?
It depends. I did have a few that just never responded ever. And I took that as a no eventually, because I followed up with them at one point and they just never responded. That's actually something you can sometimes find on agents' website as well. They might literally just say, if there's no response, assume that's a no. They might also have a time frame for following up. Like, they might say, if it's been 2 months and you haven't heard from me, please email me. They might say, don't even think about emailing me until it's been 5 months. So that's another thing where it's a really good idea to check the website. And I actually had at least one follow-up that ended up being pretty important, because what happened is that my query just got completely lost to the internet void. It was in her spam. She never saw it until I followed up, and she really liked the book. So she was kind of upset that she had missed it, especially because it was several months. And by the time I followed up, she was about 2 weeks away from giving birth and going on maternity leave, which unfortunately did not give us enough time to really do offer and things. So I did not end up signing with her, but I'm glad that I did at least email her to find out, especially because she's an agent that I've known for a long time, and I didn't want her to think I just didn't query her at all. So following up is a good idea. Yes, the phone call. You may have occasionally, if you watch publishing people at all, you might see people talk about the call with an agent, which is when an agent is interested enough in you that they want to talk to you on the phone. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get an offer of representation. I had a couple calls with agents who did not offer representation. But It's really cool. Definitely celebrate it no matter what. And it means that they are genuinely interested. There is something about your book and something about you where they are wondering, could we work well together?
Yes. And be prepared for the phone call. It's very much, it's like a job interview, but it's also like you're interviewing someone for a job. So there's that kind of duality going on. And when you come to that, really know, and we'll talk about this more later on, I think, but really knowing a little bit about what an agent is supposed to do and what an agent is supposed to do. Um, and if you know those things, those are questions you want to get into with the agent about what type of service do they actually provide, how hands-on are they going to be with you? Are they going to allow an assistant to help edit your work, or are they going to do that part of it? Do they are they the ones that are going to negotiate the deal, or is there someone else in their agency who handles that in legal? So there's so many questions that you want to have in your mind before you even have that conversation, because you're going to get excited. Someone wants you. They really want you. So it's hard not to get caught up in the rapture and forget this is a business deal and that it's okay for me to walk away from it. So if you have a script in mind before you even start the conversation, you're less likely to just start screaming your head off and saying, yes, I take you.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to that, I actually found it really, really helpful when talking to agents to think of it as an interview. Like Angela said, they're interviewing me, but I'm interviewing them, because I think it is super, super easy, especially for new writers, to see agents as these like almighty beings who can get you on the New York Times bestseller list or something. And that can sometimes cloud your vision a little bit. And it can make you focus more on impressing them. And you do want to impress them. You want to be prepared, but they also need to impress you. And a good agent is going to know that. Like, a good agent is going to want to make a good impression on you as much as you want to make a good impression on them. So just remember that it's going both ways.
Yeah, and I have found that I won't say there are 3 types of agents, but there are 3 types of agents that I tend to run into. There's the agent who likes hands-on with manuscript. They want to help you shape it. They want to help you with even line editing, which is almost unheard of because they're such busy people. But there are agents that really want to be in the mud with you with this manuscript and wrestle it into shape. Then there's that other agent that's like, come to me when the manuscript is completely polished, because I'm here to make the deal. I'm going to get us 6 figures, or I'm going to get us with a major publisher. There's that agent, and if you're able to get with that agent and you feel confident enough in your writing skill and editing skill, or maybe you have a friend who can edit it for you, then know that that is what that relationship's going to be like. And then there's those lucky folks that get the agent who can do both or will do both. But you need to know ahead of time what you need from your agent. The other things, do you need your agent to get back to you in a matter of 24 to 48 hours, which is a reasonable expectation? Or are you okay that you send an email today and you might not hear back from them in 2 weeks? So you want to ask about, what's your communication style like? All of the different things that you can think of that would help your relationship with this person, because it is a relationship that hopefully will last for years. So you don't want to jump into it just because they're a big name New York agent. You want to jump into it because it seems like your style and their style will mesh well together.
Yes, and also if you don't know where to start on what you need from a literary agent, I highly recommend just Googling what to ask a literary agent. There's loads of articles and lists online, and they can really help you think about it, because I know that as a fairly new to the industry writer and doing this whole process for the very first time, I had ideas about what I thought I needed, but I also didn't have the experience to really know. So I looked at a lot of lists, and I also asked a lot of like other writer friends who were agented already to kind of get an idea of what should I ask, because there's things you might not ever think of on your own. And you can just get a lot of ideas. You can start thinking, okay, I don't, like, you might not technically know what you need until you experience it, and then you find out, oh, I actually wanted that thing. But if you know yourself well enough, you can usually get an idea of it. Like, I knew that I needed someone who was pretty communicative because I have anxiety, and if she didn't respond to me for 2 weeks, I would assume she was thinking about how to end our relationship. So I needed someone who responds fast, and I have that. So like, just think about who you are as a person and compare it to these questions and think, what's important to me?
Yeah.
I think I was just going to say that I think one of the most important aspects of this relationship is that the agent represents you, but the agent needs to know what your wishes are in terms of, you know, making a deal or negotiating on your behalf with a publisher or whatever. Like, it should never be where the agent is saying, I think, you know, here's choice A, here's choice B. I think we should go with B, and let me explain why. And for whatever reason, you're like, nope, choice A. For whatever reason, that's what I want. And that's, you know, you need to get along well so that you can like have sometimes difficult conversations. But if the agent then goes ahead and does B, like, and you didn't want that, then that's not good. So just so you know.
Yeah.
All right. Oh,
we
sorry.
still had if they pressure you for an answer right away. So that's the other thing. We're looking now, again, back to we're interviewing them. We're looking for signs. And one of the signs is if they tell you that you have to sign a contract today, or even if they tell you you have to sign a contract in 5 days, if that doesn't seem right to you, if you feel like you want to talk to, I'm not sure if we're going to get to this later, Sarah, if we do jump in, if you want to talk to someone that they've worked with, which I highly recommend that you do. If you want to talk to a lawyer about the contract, if they tell you there's no contract and we're just going to have a handshake, run. Do not pass go, just run.
No. That's
Pardon?
like, I guess I disagree. That's how it used to work. It used to just be I've never had a contract with an agent.
If at the very least you need to have an email that spells out what the terms are, because the last thing you want to have is a situation where you thought they were going to do this and it turns out they're going to do that. So let me amend it to say you better have something in writing.
Yes.
I have a contract with my agent. It makes me feel safer. It makes her feel safer. We know what we can ask for, what we can't, and it just makes life easier. So if you're like, oh no, I can have a handshake, then you need a handshake and have something in writing. Even if it's you typing an email back to them saying, this is what I believe you said about all of the different things. And then if they come back with, no, I didn't say that, then go back and forth until you have something written out. I feel more comfortable with the contract over a handshake.
Can you see the slide?
Yes.
I think, Angela, were you going to start it out?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just be mindful of, as much as I say that I like to have communication, and I think Sarah said it too, with our agent frequently, and that we don't want a lot of time to elapse. You also have to be aware that your agent makes a living from not just you, but all of the clients that they support. So don't go into it with an expectation that you're going to have your agent necessarily on speed dial at all times. And be thoughtful about their time. A lot of them work from home. So I really try to only communicate with my agent between the hours of 9 to 5, regular business hours. I don't send late night emails unless it's just life and death as it pertains to my career. If it can't wait until the next day, I really do, try to be mindful that I'm disturbing them during their downtime with their family and friends. So, just be mindful of that.
Yeah. I personally am like with emails, I tend to be like, I'll send it whenever. and I'm going to trust them to handle their time and be like, if you don't want to check emails after 5 o'clock, don't do it. That's not up to me to manage. But also, I think it's nice to sometimes be probably more thoughtful about it. I think it's also a good idea it's at least never a bad idea to Google like the agent's name plus like controversy or something. Use critical thinking about this, right? If it's like a single Tumblr post from like an anonymous person who seems like maybe they're just angry that they got rejected by the agent and everything else about them is great, then that might not actually be the turnoff, you know? But there are also definitely agents where unless you're on Twitter, you might not know about this whole thing that happened. You know, you might not know that it turns out that a bunch of their clients actually felt like they were being kind of scammed, or that they felt like they were being neglected, and that all of that came out and a bunch of clients came forward and said all this. You might not know that just seeing them on, Publishers Marketplace. So Google them, do a little searching. Ideally, you'll find very little actually about people talking about them in that kind of terms. But it can help you kind of get an idea of what's going on.
Yeah, and if you go to Query Tracker, a lot of times people will put their experiences with agents there. Now be mindful, it's a lot like Rate Your Professor. A lot of times the only people that go there are the people who are disgruntled. So take it with a grain of salt, especially if you have like one agent and in 15 years, they only have 3 negative comments. You definitely want to take that with a grain of salt. But if you see something that's significant, it might be worth checking into it. Here we talked about Publishers Marketplace and Publishers Weekly. The bigger deals are often promoted or discussed in those two arenas. But I say this, don't get so caught up on an advance. An advance is great, but you got to also be aware of that you need to earn that money back. And that's probably another workshop altogether. But even if you find that your agent hasn't made a big deal with a major publisher, that doesn't mean you discount that agent. Sometimes it just means they're hungry and they're ready to work with someone like you to get to the next level.
Yeah, and actually a really good way to kind of find out basically like where the agent's at in that, especially if they're newer or if they don't have a lot of deals, is talk to people. If you know someone in publishing, whether it's an editor, an agent, or another writer, or just someone who is super active on the publishing side of Twitter, ask them, have you heard of this person? Ask Kathy and Angela, like ask your professors, have you heard of this person? If they haven't, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. No one knows every single agent who's out there. But the answer might be, oh yeah, I've heard of them. Like their clients love them. Like they seem to be really, really good. Or it might be, oh yeah, I've heard of them. Don't. And it might be run away. So, and the connection doesn't have to be like a huge inside connection. It can literally just be someone who is in any way connected to publishing that might have heard about that person and be able to give you an idea of if they're a good agent.
They should not charge you. And I say that with a caveat because there are certain things, like back in the day, they would charge you for making physical copies of your manuscript and sending it out. Now we do everything electronically. So that should not be an issue. I'm trying to think of something that they would charge you outside of their percentage, which is somewhere around maybe 15 to 16% is what they will take from your earnings. And then they'll send you what's left of that. And that's for most of us, we see that as a win-win situation, because that means they do the business that I don't want to. And then agents are everywhere, not just in New York. My agent is in Louisville, Kentucky. She makes frequent trips to New York, but now that everything is electronic, there's really no need to feel like your agent has to be in New York or in some of the major hubs where a lot of the agents are.
So that was the end of the prepared stuff. We still have some time. And so I just want to find out, does anybody have a question that they'd like to put in the chat, or you can turn on your microphone and go ahead and ask. And also Angela and Sarah, if there are other questions that you know, or other issues that have come to mind as you started talking, you know, feel free to ask.
Would you mind
know-
taking that down so we can see everybody?
Oh yeah, duh.
No worries.
There we go. Stop share. There we go.
Yeah, of course, we're seeing black boxes with names, but that's okay.
Here, I'll put it on gallery. How about
Yeah.
that? Then we can see
Mhm.
everybody. Hi, everybody. So questions that people might have. We've got, I see some of my students, they've been learning from Jane Friedman's book. She talks a lot about all of these things that you've talked about here. Don't see anything. Here's Jim. Oh, make sure that if you're here that you fill out the survey. Jim has just put the survey in the chat. That's how I can prove that you were here, and also get your feedback about how you think this went. And one of the things that I was going to ask is if you have any advice about when, at what point do you think somebody is ready for an agent? Well, you kind of said that at the beginning. You have to have you feel like you have to have a book and a half, right?
I mean, a book is fine, a completed book. The half was just to make me feel better, because I didn't want to take a chance that someone says, like, my book deal was based on a book that was written and a half of a book and a outline of the rest of it. And so I was able to get a 2-book deal based on having written about 75 pages. So not even a half, about 75 pages. But I had about a 15-page outline of the rest of the book. So I knew exactly where I was going. It helped them to see, oh, this is a book that we can get behind. And the book deal that I'm in the process of signing now, those are based purely on outlines. So I'm team outline here.
I think it's also good to kind of know like when you're just mentally and like emotionally ready, and there's not a good like finite answer to that. You kind of just feel it. Like I know that I was personally not ready to like pursue it seriously and get an agent when I was in college, just because of who I was as a person at that time. And it wasn't until a couple years later where I was thinking, okay, I am really seriously going to pursue like finishing this book and editing it and revising it and getting it out to agents. It took time for me to be at a point where I was ready to take it seriously. And I think that can help you a lot. It's like, if you're kind of thinking, oh, this could be cool or neat, or I want to do that someday, then that can maybe be a sign that you still like, you need to wait a little longer, and that's fine, because I know there's that thing, if any of you are like me or a lot of people, sometimes your brain goes, I have to publish a book by the time I'm 25 or I'm doomed. And that's not true. Mine came out when I was 31. I am still 31. It hasn't been that long, and plenty of people don't get published until they are in their 60s or 70s. Like it's never actually too late unless you die and then it's too late, but otherwise you're fine.
I have multiple students in this class who have written multiple books. I mean, they've already written books. Was there some, and you had too, Sarah, I know that you had completed manuscripts, even when you were a student, or you started them. Was there something? Oh, okay.
So most of it was that I was not finishing anything. I was
Okay.
not successfully actually finishing anything. I hadn't found that. It actually wasn't until I had a really good writer friend sold their book, and I wanted them to be impressed by me also and think I was cool because I thought they were really cool. And so I was like, I'm going to finish a book and I'm going to write it and they're going to love it. And they did. So it worked out. But I kind of just needed that extra motivation, I think, to really buckle down and figure out, how do I finish a book instead of editing the first 10 chapters over and over and over again for 2 years? That's my flaw. And I found a system, so it worked out.
Kayla had her hand up for a little while, I thought. Did you? I saw your hand. Oh, no, that wasn't you. Julie asked, what would you say is the biggest green flag we should see from an agent. That's an interesting way of phrasing it. Did you
I
mean
think it's
green
like,
flag?
I think so.
Like a good
Okay.
thing.
I like that.
I think it's
I
like dating, and you have to have chemistry, and it's like a date, and you go on a date partly to see, do I jive with this person or do I not jive with this person? And it's really picking, that's the way all good relationships work, is through energy. I know that I sound dippy, but it's like that.
It's true. Also, I was going to say, if they show genuine and specific interest in your book, like if it's just kind of like, oh yeah, you wrote a really great book, and then they have to kind of like look at the smudges on their hand to get the title, then they don't. But if they're like, I loved this character, I loved this arc, I loved the way you ended this chapter or whatever, if they have some specific things to say about why they liked your book and also why they think that means they'd be a good agent for it, then that's a good thing, because you want your agent to be passionate about your work, because they need to advocate for you to publishers and to editors. And so you want someone who believes in you. And that's a really good way to tell that they do, is if they actually read it.
Miles asked, is it possible that agents may put, it went up. Is it possible that agents may put experienced writers and authors over first-time novel writers? Absolutely. Miles, I've heard of writers actually say, well, I'm afraid to reach out to my agent because, they don't like to be bothered. And because they're, they have so many high level authors that they don't really want to give their attention to their up and coming authors. I've also heard of agents who would pass off their clients who were still being established over to an assistant or over to someone who works with them, and that author never even talks to the agent that signed them. So I think that's why it's important for you to think about in terms of, what do you want from your agent? And if it's hands-on attention, that's one of the questions you want to ask before you ever even sign with them. Will I be working with you, or would I be working with an assistant? And if their answer is an assistant and that's not what you feel comfortable with, then that tells you this is not the agent for me.
That's also why it's a good idea to talk to other clients. It's completely normal to ask an agent after a phone call if you can talk to their other clients. Most agents will be expecting it. Some of them might even offer it first. I know, like, my agent knows that I am open to talking to potential clients, and she has sent people to me before. But I talked to several clients who were at like different levels of success, basically. Like I talked to someone who had not sold a book yet. I talked to someone who had sold a book, but it wasn't out. I talked to, people just like moderate success. And that kind of gives you an idea of like, does the agent treat people differently depending on like where they're at? And what I discovered was not really. Like, she was super attentive to everyone, no matter, like, even if they had been trying to sell a book for a year or more and hadn't managed to do it yet, she was still just as attentive with them as she was with her like best-selling clients. And that was something I definitely really, really wanted. So you can learn a lot by talking to clients, because most of them will be honest with you in terms of, they might say, I love this person, they're great. And they usually mean that. I had clients with other agents who said, I really like them, but this concerns me. And I don't know if I don't know what that means yet. Or this might not work for you if you don't like this thing. So talking to other clients is really helpful.
And, the assistants to the agents are actually people that want to be agents, and that's how they're learning how to become one, is by apprenticing basically with an agent. And it could be that the assistant is the person that you really like, and so they won't be as experienced. You could be somebody brand new. My first agent was brand new, and boy, did I get a lot of attention. I just got so used to that it's really nice, actually, when you're working with somebody who's like, they're fired up, they're trying to prove themselves. That's actually kind of awesome. Were there any others? We're about 5 minutes after, so we're a little bit longer. Well, luckily, both of these folks are in Muncie and or at Ball State, and their contact information is in the takeaway document if you need it. I just want to thank Angela and Sarah for sharing their wisdom about this. I'm so proud to work with Angela, and I'm so proud of my former student sitting here, you know, talking about her book and talking about her agent. And I don't even have an agent. And so I'm like, yeah. So thanks so much for coming here, you guys. If you guys want to stick around for just a second so I can say goodbye to you, but for everybody else, I'll see you next Wednesday for Katie Didden. And my students, I'll see you on Monday in North Quad 160. So thank you very much for coming. Goodbye.